Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WPwatercooler's WPblab episode number 109. We're going to be talking about networking the right way, a guide to attending, speaking, and hosting meetups. Yeah, I'm super excited about this particular one, primarily because, I run a meetup, and Bridget runs a meetup, and we could totally talk about this stuff, and I think it would be end up being a pretty good thing. And we don't have any guests tonight, so it's just Bridget and I hanging out, kind of talking it up a little bit about this stuff. So, Bridget, tell everybody about yourself.
So I'm a marketing consultant, and I specialize in relationship marketing on Twitter. I represent and build brands, and you can find out more about me and my pricing at bridgetwiller.com. But I'm also the marketing team rep for Make WordPress, co-host of this obviously awesome show. And I help Jen Miller a little bit with Women Who WP here in Orange County. There's a new one coming to Pasadena soon.
That's awesome. And I just realized that the camera was on me the entire time while you were talking, which was just great.
Okay, they can hear me, and I am loud enough.
Look, it's hot in Southern California. I know that there's some folks in other parts of the country that could say that it's swampy, it's crazy hot, it's this and that, It's all this stuff. But yeah, it's hot.
AC.
Yeah, they have AC.
We do not.
We don't.
I found a ginger beer that I like at Trader Joe's. It was only $7.99. It's a huge bottle. Like, I don't know how people drink this much. It's 4% alcohol by volume, and that's
a big bottle.
It is a big bottle. Like, what the heck? I don't know. Can I just put it back in the refrigerator? Maybe I should have saved the cap. I don't know. Maybe I told her tip of the week is somebody telling me what to put on this to save it. But, or I'll give it to my girlfriend. She can make a Moscow Mule. But so, like, I really was trying to find a beer to be with my WordPressers. And I like that ginger. It's very refreshing when it's super hot like this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, that's and that kind of totally goes into the topic of hosting meetups and doing all that stuff. Since I'm so hot, I forgot to even introduce myself here. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. My website is jasontucker.blog. And I just want to let you know that this particular show is available in a whole bunch of different formats. If you want to watch us, you can watch us on YouTube. If you want to listen to us, you can listen to us on pretty much anything and everything that's out there, including Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on a whole bunch of different things. So feel free to go take a look at those. We'd really appreciate it. It's pretty much where every great podcast is found. So to take a look at that stuff and let us know. And if you switch formats, that's totally fine. If you watched us and you're like, wow, this is great, but I'd really like to listen to you guys, feel free to subscribe as audio. If you're not an audio person and you somehow found us by subscribing via audio, feel free to, go check us out on YouTube. We're totally available there as well. And good stuff. So yeah, going back to this whole meetup thing, I run a meetup. Bridget, you're running a meetup with Jen. You guys have a whole bunch of people that show up. I have a whole bunch of people that show up. But how does someone who's never been to a meetup approach a meetup, and how should they actually kind of work their way into the meetup? We'll start with that first. It's just attending a meetup, and then we'll kind of work our way towards speaking and then actually hosting one. So how would you expect someone to go and attend their first meetup?
Oh man, I was
especially a WordPress meetup.
So like, don't do it the way I did it. So here I am, a person that's been going to WordCamps, and since 2013, I get a job in the WordPress space, late 2015, and I go to my first meetup for WordPress because I went to a different one before in January of 2016, and I went in there. I was late, which freaks me out. And then we, I kind of was like, oh, and there's no place to sit. And so I was right in the front. And then I kind of freaked out a little bit. And then when it was over, I just left. So don't do that. At a WordPress meetup, you're going to have to introduce yourself. So if you don't have that 30 seconds, elevator pitch or 10 seconds, then just say my name is, and I live at da 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 da. And so you know, sometimes you have to practice it because I wasn't really good at it either. That whole introducing yourself, and it feels like, but the worst thing to do is to make it so that you. I'm not trying to slam on people, but like now that I'm in it, just say your name. Hey, my name is Bridget, and say what you do. Don't make it sound clever or weird, because people don't know what a lot of things mean, and that's the tricky part. Is like it's the same advice I have for a Twitter bio. If your grandma doesn't know what you do by reading your Twitter bio, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a similar experience with WordPress in that I did have to end up sitting in the front row the first time I went to my first WordPress meetup. But I'm the kind of person that likes to sit in the front row.
Okay.
I hate people that sit in the back of the room and then they go like, "Why is the font too small?" And you're like, "Dude, you're wearing these like Coke bottle glasses. You should be sitting in the very front of the row. You should be sitting right in front of the TV, the projector, the whatever." And you shouldn't be asking like, "Hey, can you change the font to something that's sans serifed? So that way I can see what's going on." You know, it's like any of that stuff. Like really, just like do everybody a favor. And if you can't see stuff or you can't hear stuff, then sit where you can hear and see stuff, and don't sit in the very back of the room. But that's just me. You know, I'm not Bridget.
Yeah. Well.
But so there's that. But my first meetup had nothing to do with WordPress. So what happened is I found myself on Meetup.com. Like somebody talked about like a adult kickball league that was happening, and they had a link that I went to Meetup, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I'll go check that out." So I looked at that, and then no joke, right next to it, related meetups was a Quidditch meetup, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool too. You know, you can totally play Quidditch. All right." And so I started looking around through all this stuff, and then I started searching for things that I like. So I'm like, "Oh, what about like web development? What about building websites, HTML, JavaScript, CSS?" You know, I just started throwing all these things at it. And every single one of them kept coming back with an Adobe meetup that was happening over next to Angel Stadium. And so I was like, wow, okay, well, I should totally go to this Adobe software meetup. And so I go there and listen to them speak and stuff. And the guy was like, "Oh, is this your first time here?" And he was doing a really good job at, and we'll get into the whole hosting a meetup in a little while, but he did a really good job of like, "Hey, you know, it's your first time here. Do you use Adobe products? Have you ever thought about doing this?" And he totally got me to speak the next meetup.
Wow.
I came to the next meetup and I'm like, "I'm going to show you how to use actions in Photoshop." And everybody's just like, "What?" And so I totally showed people how to, you know, do stuff with actions in Photoshop.
Wow.
But and that was just me being like, I want to be a part of this community because I really enjoyed the community. So I want to really jump in on it and just have at it. So I think everyone's a little bit different when it comes to going to your first meetup. But I think if you're the kind of person that's willing to do something, like sit back for a minute, just take a beat, look around and go, what is it that somebody's not doing that you think should be happening here? And then go ask the meetup organizer, "Hey, do you mind if I help you put away the chairs? Do you mind if I help you by putting the chair, you know, setting the chairs up? Hey, can I help you by whatever? What is it that you guys need that I can help you with?" And that, I think that would be a pretty cool way to do it, especially for me as an organizer. I would love to see somebody come up to me and be like, "Hey, I've come here a couple times. I totally want to, you know, put in whatever I can. What can I do to help you out?" Take notes. Oh my God. Like the people that do meetups, they don't want to sit there and write notes. Heck, people that do podcasts like you and I do, we don't even want to write notes. Cheryl and Sherry are in here just cranking it out right now in our notes. So like get those folks to kind of, you know, jump in and help out. I think that would be a great way to kind of make those things happen.
Okay, so now we're doing the extrovert introvert instead of he said, she said, right? Because
it's totally true.
Because you are all the letters I'm not. I'm an ISTJ, you're an ENFP. Okay, so we could not be more opposite. So for me, I'm never going to volunteer for anything. You want to get me involved? You come up and ask me, and then I'll do it. But I'm always going to think, no, they have other people that do this, and they don't really need me involved, and whatever, you know. So like sometimes you hear people saying that we're almost segueing now to organizing. Sometimes you hear people saying, "Oh, there's not enough people speaking," and I say, "Are you asking people to speak?" Because that's what we do for Women Who Drink Tea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. Now, I mean, I want you to know, folks, there's a lot of you folks that watch, and you probably have kind of caught on a little bit to the fact that we talk a lot about church here, but we're not talking about church. Church is a whole bunch of stuff. Church isn't just like going to church on Sunday, but church has a lot of the same types of things when it comes to a meetup. So you have the presenter. Yeah, you have a presenter, you have community, you have people that are ushers, which are like the people that go all the time. You have people that are just always in the back of the room raising their hand. Hey, I got a thing to answer, whatever.
Greeters.
There's a whole bunch of those. Yeah, you have greeters, you have all those things. So because of, and I wanted to kind of bring this whole church thing up, is that Bridget's husband was a pastor, and she was a pastor's wife, and pastor's wives, depends on how the pastor's wife is. Some of them are very energetic and want to get out there and do everything. And other ones are very like, this is my husband's thing. I'll let him do his thing. I'd imagine pastors' husbands would also be the same sort of thing, where it's like, I'm going to sit back here. I'm going to let her do her thing. Either way, it doesn't matter how it goes. But I think that there's different ways to look at it. And I think for me, I want to help out. Like, I always want to help out, which is great for somebody who works at a church, because they're like, get out there and help out. Don't ask anybody. Just go out and do it. They want self-starters, always self-starting. And I think that some people that are doing meetup hosting, they just want to do their thing. Like I have my stuff all figured out. Just show up, and everything's good. You don't need to do anything extra. But then there's other ones that are like, I just have a room and I might have something to talk about. We're going to talk about how the bold tag works and how it used to be called the B tag, and now it's strong.
Yeah. Oh, strong.
And now it's a CSS class. But like those sorts of things. Like there's different ways to approach this. And I think if you really read the room, if you really just sit there and go like, what is it that I can contribute to this? And ask around too. Go for it. If you're Bridget, maybe you're going to have to, I don't know. How do you get somebody to come up to you and ask you to do something? I don't know how that works. How does,
okay. So
how do you,
like how I got, okay. So how I got involved with WordCamps is Alex Vasquez reached out to me on Twitter. And he said, "You're a Twitter pro. Will you help tweet will you do the social media for WordCamp LAX?" And that was in the summer of 2015. And I've continuously been doing it ever since.
That's awesome.
WordCamp LAX Twitter account has been handled by me for the last 3 years. And that is because of that I helped San Diego for 2 years. It's because of that I helped Orange County this year. Well, last year too, but on social. So like I was doing my thing and the people recognized it. So that's the way that we approached in children's ministry of getting volunteers. You see somebody's gifts. So as an organizer, you see what people are good at, right? Various is a greeter. He's freaking awesome. You don't throw that guy in the back manning a snack table. You put him in the front, right? So at Orange County, Various was at the first door and I was at the second door. So I started a church by greeting. Because that's easy. It's low key. It's a low level commitment because you just say hi, you hand them something, and then go move on. It's the same with the WordCamp, right? And even when we were meeting at Jen's office for Women Who WP, because there was an elevator, I said, I'll be the greeter. So what my job was is I looked at the Meetup page on my phone and all the people that signed in. I looked at their pictures. Going back to being a good attendee, could you please use a picture that actually looks like you? Thank you. Because I wanted to see who came. And then when they walked in, I would say, hey, CJ, how you doing?
Right.
Hey, Samantha, what's going on? And then they feel welcome, because the worst thing to do is to come to a meetup and not feel welcome. And that's something Steve does really well, is when people walk in, he says hello to them, even though his back is, because at the place we're meeting at right now, the door's behind him. So he'll turn around and say, hey, Jason, how's it going? Or if it's a new person, hey, welcome, like he knows they're new, right? So that greeting is really, because, it goes back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and having that feeling of love and belonging. Even though you're new, you're seeing that. So as a meetup organizer, what Jen and I try to do is we try to see what people's gifts are. So for example, and this is why the discussion is really important. Last month, there was a lady who was a professional PR person who helps people with resumes. We had another lady who was applying for jobs, and she said, I'll help you with the resume. And then she started saying, because blah, 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 and blah, 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 blah. And so I said, you know what? That is a great topic for another meetup. Would you mind speaking on that, in 2 months? Because Sherilyn's doing it. I did that with Teresa. She started talking about image copyright and Creative Commons and licensing and all this stuff, because it kind of like started as a rant. And as the bouncer in the room, but that's my, like, I get people to stop talking, but also you double duty it. So I'm like, Teresa, that's a great topic. Will you speak on that next month at the meetup? And she goes, well, I can't do it next month. I'll do it like in 2 months. Well, she did. And because she did that, then she spoke at a WordCamp. And then because she did that, she spoke at another WordCamp. And because she did that, she started a meetup out in Riverside County. So it's your job, it's my job as leaders. And this is why it's good to have co-leaders in a work, because Jen has different gifts, I have different gifts. And then I can see, okay, this is a great topic. You have a passion for it. This is going to be good. Let's do it. And like, what's the worst that could happen? And so many of the people who have spoken have said, that's the first time. We got Samantha Zingit to speak on job costing. And because of that, she was in the business track last year. And then this year, she led the business track, right? So it's not that people aren't experienced and don't have gifts. It's just that sometimes they need somebody to just ask, because it's braggadocious to some, or it feels like, oh, well, I'm the one who should be. In a world where imposter syndrome is our reality, right? Let's just be serious, right?
Totally.
Me coming up and saying, hey, I want to speak at your meetup next month, Jason and Whittier, on Free Code Camp. You're like, yeah, I just did the first 2 lessons, but I'm going to come. Actually, that's a good topic. Because it is cool how you go through the things. But the thing is, it's like, no, I'm not a CSS expert. I just started the applied visual design section. I probably couldn't do it on my own, from like, if you like said, oh, what is this class or whatever? I don't know, hover. I don't know. It's a pseudo class. I don't know. Like, right. But the thing is that if you people talking about what they're working on is also another way to make it less intimidating. So one of the things I saw that Brandon Dove did really well at the developer meetup is he'd say, what are you guys working on? Let's see it. And Jacob Ariola, who's a CSS front end guy, went up there and said, I'm trying to learn PHP. This is what I'm working on. And then the whole room started brainstorming, right? So sometimes it's just having that kind of hospitality. So either like Jacob was, extroverted, he didn't have a problem getting up there. He wasn't shy, but sometimes you have to facilitate, you have to, instead of like, well, I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to talk about, Jen and I could go back and forth every single month being the only ones who speak. And then we could sit around saying there's nobody speaking. Or you could just look around at the people that you have in your room and raise those people up and encourage them to speak and encourage them to be better at what they're doing. And then the burden isn't on you so much.
Right.
You have resources available to you. WordPress is the smartest people. We just have to take the effort, take the time and make the effort to get to know somebody well enough to think, ooh, that would be a really good topic for you. Will you present?
That's kind of the approach that we've been doing over at the Whittier WordPress meetup, is that we're trying to put a bunch of effort into presenting and showing people, here's how to present. Like, here's how you can do this, and here's how you should go about this. And we're trying to get people to raise their hands and to speak into things. So it's like, hey, so we did it this way. What have you done in the past? Or, hey, what's your favorite SEO plugin? And then get people talking about it. Not that we're all SEO experts, and we even start with that. Like, You know, we're not lawyers, we're not SEO experts, or we're not writers. Like, other than that, we'll build your website. So, so because of that, it's like, tell me more about this, tell me more about that, and trying to get those people to talk. And then after a while, you get those people that are like, I'm comfortable saying things in front of people, answering questions. And so even when I'm the one that's not presenting that night, but say like Ross is the one that's presenting, or the other Jason's the one presenting, I'll sit in the audience with everyone else, and I'll raise my hand, and I'll put, you know, I'll throw some stuff in there. I try not to put any dumb 2 cents type stuff into it. I only put, you know, very positive, very reassuring, very, hey, how do you do this? And hey, I've done this before in the past. I try not to spend a whole bunch of extra time or anything explaining things that really have nothing to do with what's being asked. If you're going to like interrupt somebody in the middle of their sentence or in the middle of their presentation, interrupt them and contribute to the conversation, not go like, oh, and I went and built this website, and you end up telling this whole story. Like, no one wants to hear any of that.
Okay, good point, Jason. On the attendee side, if you do raise your hand and say that you have a question, don't make a statement.
Right. There better be a freaking question mark at the end of there, and there better not be 7 semicolons in the middle of that whole thing. Like, you better really have a question, have an actual question, say your question, and then say a question that somebody's going to actually answer. Like, if you do one of those like rhetorical questions, like, no, just give a good question.
Right. And here's for both, like the presenter and the attendee, no hard pitching. Your elevator speech is all you got. Like I said, I'm Bridget Willard. You can find out more at bridgetwillard.com, blah, blah, blah. I do marketing. I have room for clients, whatever. And then that's it. That you can't sit there and go, well, we are doing this and we are doing that and blah, blah, blah. Unless somebody asks you, okay, your client is pressable. What do you think of that? Right. Otherwise, like, remain as agnostic with tools as possible, unless you're specifically talking about what the tool is and why it's, you know, useful. Like, because everybody likes something else. We were just in the general meetup a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about forms. And, you know, a lot of our people at our meetup do not like Contact Form 7. But we have a new person who's like, I love Contact Form 7. I use it all the time. I totally know it. You know what I mean? We don't want people to feel the way you present a tool should not reflect on the user of the tool. Like, oh my God, are you stupid? Why are you using Contact Form 7? You could be using Caldera, WP Forms, Gravity Forms. We all use, or some people say, everybody here uses Gravity Forms. I'm like, I use Caldera. And they go, where? Yeah. Okay, so like, don't make it sound like you're you're the only one who's smart because you're the only one using Gravity Forms. Not everybody needs something that robust, right? Sometimes you just need a little SAS WP form, a little Caldera form, a little Ninja form. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody likes tools for a reason. I always talk about it like this, and the women might appreciate it. It's like, tools are like purses. I don't bring this purse to the bar, you know, I bring my wallet, which is just a tiny, tiny thing in my back pocket.
Right.
Okay. There's a reason for everything. And that's not even my real wallet. My real wallet's much bigger. Okay. Yeah. So, and then for a wedding, I'm not bringing any of those. I have a real fancy purse. The tool that you use depends upon your client, their goals, and what Steve Zanget always says, what are your business goals? Right. So totally there's a flavor in the meetup that really, it makes a difference about how, and it's our job as facilitators to be like, okay, we, you know, I can't even tell you how many times I've said we are host agnostic in this meetup, you know, and also code of conduct stuff. It's our job to enforce that. You know, a lot of people assume because I would say about 75% to 85% of the people in WordPress are very liberal leaning. But you're not the only people. So it's very easy to say, oh yeah, we all drink IPAs. What's wrong with you, tequila? Right? So like, you have to, like, with politics, it gets a little sticky. So we can talk about IPA versus lager versus porter, or, you know, and not be like super contentious. But once politics start coming in there, and I've had to do it a bunch of times, I go, We don't talk about politics here. You guys can talk about anywhere else. So it's our job as facilitators to create a psychologically safe space. And so if somebody makes an offhand comment, we have to call it out. It's hard. Yeah. It's not easy to like, we've experienced it before, you know, and what happens, totally what happens in the women's group, and we've had to say this, is they'll say, well, how come there are men here? Because we're gender inclusive. We're not gender exclusive. We're in WordPress, we accept everybody. Anybody that identifies as female is allowed to come. Anybody who wants to come because of the federal law is allowed to come. But we're going to run it with our style. So women who start feeling intimidated by men, you know, that's their choice. But it's illegal and against the code of conduct in WordPress to have a gender exclusive meetup. So it's really hard because it's our job to explain that. And that's a cultural thing with WordPress and a legality thing, like Curve's Gym for Women has to allow men to come. And besides, don't we want to learn from everybody? So it's very hard sometimes because they'll say, but this is Women Who WP. And some of that sort of happened in the Inland Empire and they changed it to a workshop. So that's fine, but you just have to explain to people, this is the Women Who WP, we run it a little bit differently. There's more storytelling. There's more room for that kind of narrative. Because a man will say, I'm trying to get this JavaScript to pull up a calendar. And a woman will say, so I had this client and I really didn't want to deal with them, but she's a friend of a friend. So we had coffee the other day. Did you ever go to Portofino Coffee? It's really good. Well, anyway, so I met with her and then she wanted to have this calendar system. I don't know which calendar system is the best. I looked around, I tried to do it. And then I ended up, you know, it's because we tell social details. And so we have to give a safe space for that, right? So it's the style of how we do it. So a lot of times people think, okay, I got a meetup space. Then I went through the Meetup Foundation. Now I have a meetup and that's fine. And now I'm running it. But it's our job to protect the culture of the meetup.
Yeah, it is. And that it's funny. We were talking about this on WPwatercooler last week. I don't know if you caught WPwatercooler last week, but it's episode 283. We were talking about how folks that are very very well seasoned in the WordPress community are very well seasoned in the web development, within web development or within design or with anything like that. How we have a lot of those folks that no longer come to meetups. And those folks aren't wanting to even talk with people that are new to meetups. So talk about inclusive, exclusive there. You have folks that have been doing WordPress forever who don't want to go to the meetup because all they're going to talk about is how to log into the website, how to change the title of their website, how to change the, you know, any of those like very basic things that we think are very basic things. Oh, you're using a customizer. Oh my gosh, why would you use a customizer? Like any of those sorts of things. And so because of that, you have folks that don't want to show up to the meetups because things are either too advanced or they're too beginner for people. And how do we balance that?
So that's a perspective. So, okay, so I'm a marketer. I go to the developer meetups every other month, and I'm actually speaking on developing empathy for developers at WordCamp Nijmegen at the end of this month because of that. That's why I'm doing free code camp. Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. It's like, I can't understand my audience as a marketer if I don't know that culture, if I don't know their words, right? Mm-hmm. JSON isn't you. So, right. So it's the other way. I feel like if we go approach any group of people and think, I can't learn from any of these people, that's where we went wrong. First of all, we should be lifelong learners. If you are in a room with beginners, guess what? Those are your customers. So learn how they think. You'll approach your own marketing better. You'll also maybe think, like when I was first there, if you have a lot of support tickets and you get somebody like me going, where's the instructions? And people go, oh, that's the documentation. I'm like, what? When I go to IKEA, I get instructions. I don't get documentation, right? So there's some technical terms, you know, you might get some ideas about how to communicate better with your clients. Also, you have an opportunity to mentor somebody. And
or be mentored, either way.
Right, mentor or mentee. And then like you could also maybe pick up a junior developer. You could partner with people. Alex Vasquez said this at a WordCamp in 2014 or 15 at Orange County about like, we want to get bigger jobs, so why don't we partner up with each other, right? Like Roy and I partner up. I do the social media, he does the build, right? So it's like it's hard sometimes to do one thing because some people want to go to one person who does everything. Mm-hmm. You know, I have this other client that wants writing. I'm not doing it. I'm going to hire Jen through me, right? So like I can go to her and say, I have this blogging company and I can do your social media and somebody else can do your website, right? So then it feels more like an agency. So plus, you know, we're more than just what we do for a living.
It's totally true. It's totally
okay,
true.
So there's got to be people in there who brew stuff, who make stuff, who have interesting lives outside of PHP, JavaScript, and Beaver Builder.
There are skills that people do that they don't get paid for.
Right? You know, there's a lot of things you could talk about that won't bore you. You know, and why don't you try asking somebody a question like, hey, that was a really interesting thing. So one thing I thought was really cool is when Matt Cromwell went to the WordCamp Las Vegas a few years back, I think 2016, he sat in a beginner's section. And even though he's an advanced guy and he runs the advanced WordPress meetup in San Diego, or did at the time, I don't know if he still is, but so he said he heard a question from a beginner and he went, oh my gosh, I'm going to change how I run support for Give WP, right? Valuable insight. We get valuable insight anytime somebody opens their mouth. And if you want to learn, you can even learn the wrong way. Like, oh yeah, I would never do that with the customizer. And then when somebody asks, you can say, actually, what I would do is make a child theme. And this is the reason why. 1, 2, 3, 6, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So instead of being like, I have nothing to learn, if you ever get to the point in your life where I have nothing to learn, you've lost it. And I'll tell you that it's not my tool or tip of the week, but just having this conversation reminds me of, okay, so I started doing yoga, right? And when you go to this class, it's different when you're just by yourself looking at on YouTube on your phone, right? You go to the class and there's all these people with all different levels. And even though my friend Julie is like pretty advanced and can do the handstands like that, everybody has what they call their own practice. So you're just doing what you can do that day. And so even though she's advanced, if she injures herself, she might have to modify. You know, like my friend Heather injured her shoulder, so she couldn't do the planks like this. She had to do the dolphin arms because her shoulder was bothering her too much. Okay. So we go through phases in life where even though we get advanced, there's another part to it. So being a lifelong learner and the grace that you have in that is something really amazing. Because I had a friend who's 65, just started yoga last week. She goes, I couldn't believe how welcoming it is. And in many ways, that's the way the WordPress community is. So we can learn from each other all the time. So you might have gotten all hardcore with Contact Form 7 and you never heard of anything else and you didn't know there were other choices. So we don't need to put you down. We can just say, oh, there's other choices out there and maybe this will be easier for your client or easier for you, lessen your development time, which helps you make money. Instead of, oh, none of us. Oh, why would you even use that? Like, what is wrong with you as a human being? Why don't you wake up and breathe air today?
Yeah, the web host thing that you talked about very earlier on, and we should probably definitely get into the hosting a WordPress meetup. But when you're talking about about how web hosts, how you shouldn't be talking about various web hosts and be very, you had a great word for it,
agnostic
for it. Yeah,
just fair.
Yeah. So you have that, but then you also have people that with domain names. Oh, who should you buy your domain name through? Well, really, who gives a crap where you buy your domain name? Do you want to spend $30 on a domain name? Do you want to spend $5 on a domain name? It's all the same for the most part. 99.99999% of the time, it's pretty much the same. Pick which one you want to use. It's Coke, Diet Coke, Pepsi, whatever. You get a domain name at the end of it. So pick one of those. The web hosting side of it, you know, I provide classifications of web hosts. So I'll say like, well, I've heard that if you want managed web hosting, which makes it so easy to just kind of put it on to the types of services that they provide. Managed web hosting, you have this company, this company, this company, this company, and probably a whole bunch of other ones. If you want me to, you know, if you want to tell me what web host you're using, maybe I can tell you a little bit more about it. Maybe I can't because I've never heard about it.
Right.
I can't have heard every single thing about every single web host. But the bigger ones, sure, I probably know a decent number of them, if not people that actually work at those ones. So exactly. When it comes to those things, yeah, the same with you said about Contact Form 7, and those sorts of things as well. Just, is it something that's a basic thing? Is it a more advanced thing? And people always, they raise their hand. Do I have to pay for this one too? Do I have to pay for this one too? So you have to kind of think about those things as well. Don't always talk about the buy the agency model of every single thing. When, you know, Joe Schmo over here has his cat blog that he's trying to run, and he's definitely not making more than one website. And you got Sally over here who only has 2 websites, and she's never going to make more than 2 websites, that she says.
And they're fine being on Bluehost.
Right. And you don't need to talk about, you know, the agency version of that plugin. That's where you have to think about like who is your audience. And that was the topic last week on Watercooler, was that whole like, you know, who are you presenting to? Like, who is it that you're actually presenting to at these meetups, at these WordCamps? Yeah. You know, take a, you know, who works at an agency here? And everybody raises their hands, or they don't raise their hand. Okay. You know, do a little polling before you actually start. So that way you're not talking to folks that are talking to folks as if they do something that they're not actually doing. Right.
But then a lot of times and we find out this a lot in the women who WP, that we're in career transitions.
Oh yeah, big time.
We have a blog. It was a lifestyle blog. Now we want to move into that is your job, right? Uh-huh. So we're always all transitioning in our careers. And if you haven't had a career transition, maybe you're just not old enough. I don't know. Like, I feel like the only thing that's constant is change. You know what I mean? Right. But we have touched on a lot of the hosting things. So I tweeted out from this account and put in the chat the post the marketing team did for promoting your local meetup that's on the Make WordPress community blog. So these are the things that Jen and I basically do. And there's like 16 things, but basically promoting it and facilitating it are, really important. So we can blog after each event. Now I've been lax on that. So, do the event consistently. So we're the third Wednesday. We had one time we were dark this last June. Since we've been doing it, one time was dark. We weren't even dark during Christmas. And I would urge everybody, as I did our own team, that the holidays are the times when people need other people the most. And if you can still have your meetup in November, December, I would encourage you to do so. Promote it on Meetup at least 2 weeks before, not, oh yeah, we're having this tomorrow. Yeah. And then go, only 4 people showed up. Well, you didn't give people a chance. Don't rely upon meetup.com completely. Have a Facebook page, a group, a Twitter, one or all of those, because people don't, a lot of times the meetup.com emails go to spam. People don't pay attention to it. So if you do have, Twitter and Facebook or Facebook group, Facebook page and or Facebook group, that's very helpful. You can also ask other meetups to participate. Like we had presentations from people from Girl Develop It, and the Riverside people came over with desktop server. So taking pictures during the event helps, and then post that on social and your meetup and stuff like that. Having them on the weeknight is tricky, But if you can have a meal of some kind, it does help, because a lot of us are coming straight from work, whether we're freelancers or we have regular jobs or whatever. And if you don't do that, then like one of the things that you do a really good job of, Jason, is saying, hey, we're all going to meet at, Mod Pizza. Let's, who else wants to come, and making it public and inclusive. For me, I like that the meal is part of the meetup because it feels like everybody's welcome, but it's not always achievable or realistic budgetary wise.
That's what we do for the Whittier meetup. WPwatercooler, the network.
Yeah.
Throws in $15 and buys 3 pizzas, and we go, okay, here you go, guys. If you want to bring your own drinks or whatever, go for it.
Yeah, but, it's cool. I mean, you could have a Slack channel. April is suggesting in the chat, like Slack, that's fine, but not everybody uses Slack. I did not use Slack until I worked for GiveWP. Now all my clients have Slack channels, and I can't stop. But it doesn't, but like, you can, but I would not use Slack first. I would use Slack as some auxiliary, because the regular people, you're trying to get new people in, right? So they're not necessarily going to want to be in your Slack, and Slack is not public facing, so it's not going to show up in search. So in the meetup event, comment when somebody says they can make it or they can't make it. If they have a question, pay attention. It's your job as a facilitator to pay attention to those comments. And then when Meetup sends you the email, like, tell people it was good to see them, go ahead and click those buttons. One of the things you can do when you're launching is consider creating campaigns so people can join the event, or like Facebook events, like Jason, like you do for this. You can do Facebook events if you have a Facebook page. And if your WordCamp allows you to do this, you can put an image about, announcing the meetup, and then you can film presentations, even we Facebook Live some of ours just with my phone on a thing, but here's the thing. This is another thing that I wish, this is my wish list. I really want to just, the thing that it drives me the most crazy, and I know this is a community thing, a community make WordPress inside baseball thing, but the fact that the WordCamp pages have subdomains means every single year they change. But if it was lax.wordcamp.org/whatever year, then you could continuously promote all the meetups on that webpage for the WordCamp. The WordCamp is a celebration. This is from Andrea Middleton. This is what she gives this presentation a lot. The WordCamps are a celebration of the meetups that happened the year before. We need to, a lot of times, like in Seattle, they have their own webpage that is continuous, because having all the meetups all over the place, it gets really tricky. So like for LA and Orange County, we have Facebook groups, and then we post all the meetups there, even though I try to do it as much as I can on Twitter too. So like the Pasadena, the Whittier, all that, like, because it's really, even though Meetup is a great page, people just for some reason do not pay attention to it as much as they do Facebook and Twitter. That's the reality. So if you're trying to get people to come, and then when they do come, welcome them. Don't, like, one of the things I didn't put in that blog post, but that Jen and I do, is we don't sit next to each other. We don't, when it's our meetup.
Super smart.
So it's not me and Jen and Yvonne sitting next to each other, blah, 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 and everybody else is just there. We really, really try to not do that. We try to divide and conquer, because we can gab in the parking lot afterwards. You know what I mean? So we sit together when it's not our meetup. We sit together when it's the general meetup or the developer meetup. But when it's Women Who WP and we're the ones who are running it, we make a really big effort. We're not perfect, but we make an effort to not sit together, because that's not the purpose, because it's easy to get distracted with your really close friends. It doesn't mean that the other people aren't your friends. It's just very easy to get distracted by the things that you do need to talk about or want to talk about. Try to do your staff meetings some other time, so you don't have to talk about the inside business of the meetup, when other people are around, Don't, like, have your shit together. I don't know how else to say it. Like, don't be like, I don't know what's happening. people want to feel like you're consistent and that you're a place that they can go to and they're welcome. And one of the things that was really cool for us is we had this lady, Gwenny, who was coming in 2016, and then she hadn't come in for a while, but she knew it was always the third Wednesday. She went and found it, even at our new location. She showed up, she was like, oh my gosh, you guys are still doing this. This is awesome. And she was super encouraged by it. The consistency is the biggest factor. It's the biggest factor. And I think a lot of people go, well, it doesn't really matter. And then we try to promote each other's meetups all the time in our meetups in Orange County. But if we're like, oh, we don't know when this meetup is meeting, then it's really hard to say, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. We're like at the 45-minute mark. You want to talk about tool and tip of the week?
Yeah, I do. You're right. Cause I always rack my brain. And then once I start talking, I find, okay. So I have this, part-time job at a travel agency, and, I'm doing some of their marketing, right? And so they have this constant contact email list of like 7,000 people, but they're just emails, Jason. Okay. So,
emails.
Right. So I was like, okay, we got to clean these up. So first of all, I don't know if this might be Chrissy Chirinos might be freaking out on me, or Amy Hall, but I deleted all the unsubscribes. So I don't even want them in there.
I just did the same thing.
Okay. but so like I was looking at all these emails, and I'm like, how did we not know what these people's names are? So what I started to do was I go, you know what, Gmail's awesome. So I went in, I said, I started with the Gmail. I went into the contacts and I searched gmail.com. Then I went through and I highlight the name. I go back into my email, paste it, and about 70% of the time, those people have a Google Plus profile. So then I get their first and last name, and I go put it in. I've been working on that for 4 weeks.
That's genius.
I'm using Gmail as my tool or tip of the week to clean up my constant contact email list.
Bridget is an API. That's awesome.
Well, it's a little bit longer than API. I've been working out for 4 weeks.
I hate to say this, but there's an API for that. You could probably leverage that. But hey, Bridget could be the API. That's fine.
I didn't know that. That's what I'm saying. We don't always know that there's things like that.
That's awesome. I like that. I have one, and this one is not the geeky things that I usually do type of thing. This is more along the lines of it's for social media stuff. I mean, this is a marketing show. We talk a lot about marketing stuff, and you know, I've been playing around with doing stories on Instagram, doing stories on Snapchat, any of this stuff, and it drives me nuts that there isn't any really good formatting for something in a story. And so I'd imagine that, this is probably old hat for a lot of folks that have been using this thing for a long time, but it's good to talk about this stuff. So there's this really great app for the iPhone. I don't know if there's an equivalent on Android or not. My apologies. I picked iPhone, and that's what I use. But I use this really great little app, and I'll kind of show you it real quick. So what this app does is this app makes it so that you can actually make a story and then customize it. Oh. So I recently went to look at the Mount Wilson 60-inch telescope, and so I wanted to kind of present the telescope a very specific way. So I wanted to have text with some other text, and then have an image on it. Right?
That's
it's
like
really
a
cool.
Blog post.
It's a total blog post, but using this little tool. So what you do is you go and you start off a brand new one. So you go say, I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to call it WPblab.
What's the name of the tool, Jason?
This is called Unfold.
Okay.
So once you open this up, and it's totally free. And so you load this thing up here, and let me click off here so you can see the screen. And so what you do is you push the little plus sign, and on the bottom here, you can pick from various layouts. And just like any good app, they're going to sell you some layouts as well. But you can pick a layout. You can put in some text, WPblab. And then you can pick a photo. Now, here's where it gets really cool. You can pick a photo. So like this one, I took this like crazy photo of Bridget because I was just, whatever. But you can also pick an unsplash photo.
Oh, I love Unsplash.
So you go down here and you're like, dude, I'm totally talking about, this right here. So you push select, boom, it puts it in there for you. Then you could say, I want to make another one. So you're going to put a different one in there. I pick the same layout. Let me pick a different layout. So then you pick like a different layout. So with this, they just want you to put a background. So maybe you want something kind of cool for a background. So we'll pick that one for a background. And now you can write some text on it. Oh, then when you're done, you push save. And what it does is, do you want to save the story or you want to save it for a page? You say save it as a story, and it spits out a bunch of images. So now it's just saved a bunch of images for you. And now you can go and create your story and use those images already built, ready to go.
That's cool.
It's pretty sweet. I like it. It's been fun to play around with it. And it's something that a lot of influencers out there are using. So it's a pretty interesting little tool to play around with. That's Unfold, totally free. There's a whole bunch of like paid little packs to have new things kind of set up and stuff if you want to kind of buy some additional things. But for somebody who's just kind of playing around with it, that's totally a great way to kind of make that happen.
We need to get somebody to talk about that, because I am so like, that would be a good topic, because all this stuff, Snapchat for myself, Snapchat to talk to Julie, that's fine. Snapchat for a brand, something that's going to disappear like that. I don't know. Like
Instagram. I use this for Instagram, and it worked great.
Like, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook all have stories now, so they disappear in 24 hours. And I feel like if I do that much work, I want it to stay.
Yeah, and that's where you can save it and then use it for something else. So now you have all those images collected, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's true.
And then save it and use it. You can also save on Instagram as well. I'm not an Instagram expert, but there's definitely a bunch of ways of kind of curating content and saving your own content and stuff. But it's a lot of fun. And if you're somebody who's doing this type of work, you can definitely use something like this. And there's a couple other ones that are out there that do this as well. But this one's specifically made for doing stories. So everything is in 9:16 format.
Sure.
But yeah, very cool. If you're on Facebook, you can use this as Facebook stories as well. So I'm looking in the chat here, and everybody's like, I don't use Snapchat. I don't use this.
No, I say Snapchat because everybody's copying Snapchat. Snapchat's what started this.
Yeah, Instagram's going to be
Snapchat at all.
Snapstagram.
Snapstagram. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. It's just, it's really interesting. I'd be curious to know if anybody in our space is using that well.
Yeah, or using stories that well. I mean,
stories.
Yeah, I mean, like at the church, we use stories to tell a story. It's like, oh, hey, make sure you show up to our meeting. We're doing this thing. I mean, high school and junior high are usually the ones that do a really good job of that. But then you're starting to see older folks that are using it as well, and they're using it as a way of promoting, and it's kind of neat. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, it's very curious. So yeah, maybe we should do that with our meetups.
Yeah. Oh, that wouldn't be a bad idea. I've never really thought about using social media. It kind of sounds really stupid, but using social media as a way of promoting your meetup. I've never thought about that. I mean, no joke. You have Instagram TV, IGTV. You could do your whole meetup in IGTV. It would drive me nuts because it would be like this. Yeah. But it would be kind of cool to. I mean, look, you even got Russ walking around. I mean, can you imagine like doing that type of show? I mean, it'd be cool to have like that sort of thing set up. Even if you did an intro to coming to a meetup. Yeah.
Because like WordCamp LA, we have an Instagram. Yeah. That I do with Thomas Levy. So it'd be interesting. Maybe like now that I'm like, we shouldn't have a staff meeting. I'm going to say this. We should be making images to promote the local meetups on Instagram then.
Totally.
You just made me think of that. I'm going to use that. Unfold.
That's right, folks. I mean, you thought it was cool when your meetup showed up automatically using GeoIP stuff in the dashboard, but give Bridget a cookie and she's gonna ask for more and a whole bunch of fun stuff. So she may end up promoting all of our meetups by the time we're done with this thing.
Well, I'm gonna go write it in the Facebook group. That's the other thing. It's like, okay, so I forgot to say this. So your meetup meets once a month usually, okay? Mm-hmm. And so in the Facebook group, keep it going. Encourage people to talk to each other, like answer each other's questions, be a community so that when they don't come for whatever reason, because we all have busy lives, they still feel part of it.
Yeah.
So that's why the Facebook group is kind of an important thing. Now, April and those guys use Slack. You could do that too. To me, Slack is like worse than Twitter. It's like if you weren't there, you're not going to even find it. Whereas Facebook has better threads. I know that Slack has threads, and we use them in WordPress, make WordPress marketing team, but not everybody uses the threads, and so yeah.
Well, if you were using HipChat, now you're using Slack because they just got bought out.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everybody's getting bought out, but yeah, like that. Just being that community. Being a community means investing your time in other people. It's not just about and it's okay that if you have a business, you're doing it. Steve Zenga, just to wrap it up, he always says to everybody, he was interested in this subject. He wanted to learn from people that knew it better than he did. And so he decided to host a meetup at his office. And that is a smart thing to do. And then, for 10 years, they've been at Zeek Interactive or whatever it's been, So, you build a community and the community has each other, and we can ebb and flow and come out of it as we have these phases in our lives. You have kids, you get busy in the summer, you come, you go, but you always know that you're welcome. That's a community has its most power when you need it the most. So if the community can exist without that one person being there at every single meeting, then it's a success. But if it needs you, then it's a problem. Get a co-organizer.
Totally get a co-organizer. Definitely. I mean, that's what Ross did with me. He's like, you want to do this together? Yeah, let's do it. Okay, perfect. And then let's get a third wheel just in case. Yeah. And so we had a co-organizer and a third wheel. We're good to go. We have everything we need to be able to pull this thing off. So yeah, super smart to do that. Definitely take the time to find folks that are in your community, bring them up, raise them up, and kind of get them to start really wanting to present and do fun things at the meetup. I think it's a super smart way of going about it.
Yeah, it's an opportunity to mentor people, and you should be able to move and retire if you want to.
Yeah. Well, Bridget, I think that's about it. I want to say thank you, Bridget, very much for being my co-host and hanging out with me every Thursday where we talk about this stuff, especially in the summer months where we're both kind of cooking in our bedrooms and it's crazy hot and all that stuff. But I want to say thank you for that. I want to say thank you for Cheryl and Sherry for helping us out with our show notes. If you've noticed that in the past couple episodes we've had listicle style show notes, it's because that's all I'm capable of doing apparently. So I want to say thank you very much for Cheryl and Cherry for helping us out. I mean, they crank out more information than actually that's able to be fit into a YouTube YouTube description. Yeah. So, but it's great.
I thought you were going to say that they crank out more information than we actually say.
Probably. She's like, oh, I didn't get to say that. I'm going to add some more stuff in here. Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, thank you all. Talk to you all later. Make sure you go to our website at WPwatercooler.com. You can click on the links over there to subscribe, WPwatercooler.com/subscribe. And if you want to sponsor this show, we're going to be doing some pretty cool stuff with sponsorships pretty soon here. So if you're somebody who's like, dude, $200, $300, $400 for sponsorships, are you kidding me? We're going to make this way more manageable. I want the folks that are in our chat room to be able to afford to throw some money at me, to have me say some words, to have Bridget say some words, and that we'll be able to talk about this stuff. So help us help you to help us, to help you to help us. Talk to y'all later. You have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.